Presented by The Hockey Shop, source for Sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. We are In Goal Radio, the podcast. Darren Millard chatting with Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison. And today we have a special question that's going to be put to everybody. And we want you to participate in this. It deals with our gear segment this week over at The Hockey Shop, source for Sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. Bauer Pro Returns is the subject. And this question is going to get your mind turning. Our feature interview this week also deals with a great goaltender celebrating a championship, Katie Burt, winner of the Isabel Cup. The Boston Pride is going to chat with us, and they are just tearing it up the last few weeks after their championship. So we'll talk about champagne, championships, and goaltending with Katie Burt. But let's get into it. The question of the day, because the Pro Returns is the subject with Cam over at The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com. If you could acquire and use a piece of equipment, a Pro Return piece of gear from anybody, what piece of gear and who would it be from? Let's start with Hutch.
I knew you'd throw it my way. When I suggested this before we were talking, I was just thinking maybe I could cop out and collect it. Then we have the other problem that I'm not sure there's Pro Return gear out there that would fit me in my little legs.
You can't just use it as a collector.
Paging UC Saros.
Yeah. So, I got to just default to UC Saros or somebody like that, or it's not. Actually, I love some of Saros' stuff. Like those dark sets are absolutely spectacular. Okay, if we could resize it so that it would fit me,
Do you want to go back in time too?
I would go back in time. Go back in time. I'm a huge Ken Dryden fan, so I'd pick a set of his. I'm not sure that I'm even partial to which set, although there was I've got a set that's very similar to some Coopers that he used to wear. I would probably go with any Ken Dryden set or Vladislav Čečák set.
You're going to use
Pardon
this.
Me?
You're going to use this.
Yeah. I know. Well, I'm always threatening to pull out the brown pads and take them out just for kicks. So that would be it. But otherwise, I've always been in love with Eddie Lack's Stadium Series set, the Vancouver Millionaires tribute set.
Yeah. Those would be it. The good news on those, Hutch, is the Canucks didn't let Eddie keep them.
I know he'd be thrilled if I could get them and send them to him.
They sold them instead, and so I've seen them in circulation here in the Vancouver area. I've actually seen them on the ice. Actually, I think it might have been at Rogers Arena, like one of the guys that comes in for like the Trainer Hockey League skates back before COVID canceled those. So the good news is you could get them. The bad news is they definitely have to be resized to fit you.
Yeah.
And could you afford? They're Pro Returns, but even that, could you afford them? Because those were expensive pads. I mean, they cost money and Roberto Luongo.
True.
So there's big value in that.
They did quite literally cost the Canucks Roberto Luongo. The straw that broke the camel's back in terms of leaving Vancouver was that start. The irony is, and I don't know how many people know this, I don't think we've told it, or maybe we did talk to him about it. Like, there had been he'd been waiting for the trade, which everybody knows, the "my contract sucks" comment. But through it all, he'd actually come around to staying in Vancouver to the point where they were looking at property in Vancouver, and he was considering just playing out that entire contract. And it was that decision that was the final straw, an agency change, a quick call, and I think it was Pat Brisson orchestrated the trade just a few days later back to Florida, which worked out well for him as well. But there's a lot more meat on that bone in terms of that Eddie Lack start at the Heritage Classic. And I think for my answer here, speaking of Roberto Luongo, I'm going two parts. We do have a set in the office of Roberto Luongo's old Reebok P4s from his time with the Canucks. But if I'm going for nostalgia, like the set that I'd like to sort of have on display, I'm probably going with one of his Panthers sets from pre-trade to Vancouver. So sort of 03, 04, those old Coho sets with all those colors, like those popped. There's a soft spot in my heart for sort of that generation of pads with the yellow and the red and the way he wore it. So I'm not sure I'd like to wear it on the ice, but that's one I'd have on display. In terms of Pro Returns to actually wear, you are never going to get better value than a set of Yaroslav Halak Pro Returns. Because the reality is he could have worn them for the entire season, and they're still going to look brand spanking new. Cleans them before every start. There's no puck marks on there. Has a set of practice pads that he wears exclusively for practice so he can keep the game set fresh. So in terms of value on Pro Returns, give me Yaro Halak every time. His Brian's, it'd be like buying it off the rack. They're so mint.
I loved Kari Taco's first set of white pads that he wore with the Minnesota North Stars. Those always stood out to me. I love the Vaughn white pads that Ron Tugnut wore and Stefan Fiset wore for a while. Those were really cool pads. If I was like to wear with flair, some of Trevor Kidd's work had a lot going on. A
lot of style
with Trevor Kidd. Blocker,
more
glove, and the pads. I'm gonna go with Kidder and crank those bad boys out, whether it's checkerboard or some of the other some eyes on there. He was underappreciated with the amount of style that he had in his gear.
Now the question is, are you wearing those out for a Vegas practice?
Well, I would like to, because they would be 12 inches wide back then, and they're covering a whole bunch more, and the glove, everything. Yeah, I'm wearing those out there. I'll stop more pucks over fashion on the short term. Now, long term, the set that I've got right now, my Axis pads, Marc-Andre Fleury Pro Returns, they rock, and I'm living this life right now. They fit perfectly, and it's great gear.
Well, speaking of Pro Returns, Darren, and it's not quite Pro Returns, but speaking of your gear, got a set of Axis 2 here in the in-goal testing offices that we're just getting set to photograph. And I got to say, they've got a sort of Vegas flair in the color scheme with a little bit of gold on there.
Little so Vegas vibe?
We might have to upgrade you from Axis 1 to Axis 2 at some point in the near future. So just a reminder to the folks out there, as much as we're going to get into the gear segment with the hockey shop, we're firing up our gear segments at ingoalmag.com, starting to roll out the new equipment with testers, starting to get feedback from top junior goalies and right up to beer league. Everybody's feedback on this new stuff. Exciting times, Hutch, to get the new stuff coming in.
Yeah, super exciting to get this stuff on the ice. And I've always said that as the new gear is coming in, you look at it and you think there's no more they can do. This is so good. And then you look back to that Reebok P4 set over your shoulder there that at the time I thought was state of the art and could never get better. And look at all the changes we've made again. The innovations that come in every year. It's just the most exciting time of the year for me. And really excited to get the Axis 2 on the ice, and I'm really excited to see what's coming next. You talked about the changes last week in the gear segment. The knee stack changes that are coming around, I think for me, are just the most exciting of everything that's going on right now. Also just the new foams in terms of both the lightness and the rebound controls. Awesome time of year.
I had a buddy that just switched to a modern pad. The pad that he was using was about 5-6 years old, and he loved them.
That's not modern.
Well, he with the active rebound. He'd never used a pad with the active rebound, and he wore a pair of CCMs out, and he was blown away. He'd never felt anything like it, and it just happened to be that the next day I was skating there's a buddy of mine that plays in the KHL. He had some ice, and he was trying out some new gear, defenseman. So he was out, and I went out. We were taking clappers, and we were just doing regular drills. But he was doing one of those like left hand point shot, and I was making the saves with my blocker pad, and you're in that rhythm of the puck just popping off them. Nothing makes you feel like an actual goalie, like making a butterfly save and that puck just rocketing off the pad like the active rebounds. It's the coolest feeling ever.
Oh, how times have changed. I remember getting a brand new set of gear as a kid, and the coach wouldn't let me wear them for, I think, 3 weeks or a month because they were so stiff.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen to the rebounds?
Right. Plus, you couldn't move in them, though. But now you can move in them. Do you remember having to oil the gloves? And pads?
Mink oil on everything.
Yeah. What kind of oil did you use?
I used mink oil.
Oh, mink, yeah.
I don't know why. Read it somewhere.
You should have used deer because it was deer hide, deer hair. What was I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no deer hair in this Axis 2 glove, let me tell you, but there are some innovations that we can't wait to share with you guys in the near future. Massive changes. I can't give away too much yet, but it's totally different, and it snaps closed out of the box. It's just, I can't wait. Totally different internals. It's been quite an interesting discovery having it here for the first week. Massive changes, and like I said, we'll share those. But first, I think we need to go to the hockey shop and get the lowdown on some gear that isn't new, but is still very exciting. The Bauer Pro Return Series they've got coming up. I went in there, hung out with Cam, went through all the gloves, blockers, pads. We've got Devin Dubnyk sets. Got a real nice set of Linus Ullmark gear from Buffalo that a lot of people will recognize because of the graphics. All kinds of really unique gear. It's funny. I'll talk about what gear the pros wear, but the reality is quite a bit of it is different and unique and customized to their specs. So we got Cam who's going to walk us through all those features in next week's gear segment so that you can be prepared when it all goes on sale online at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com on April 14th. So this is your chance to check it out, make a wish list, check in with Cam before the sale starts if you have any questions about sizing or specs, and also a heads up that they will have Pro Return sticks from Bauer as well at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com, also going on sale April 14th. We'll give you some teases on that next week in next week's gear segment, but there's a lot of good-looking twigs in there. Vasilevskiy, Reimer, lots of top names from around the NHL, Pro Return sticks, on top of the Pro Return gear that we're going to go over in this week's segment with Cam right now. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports, where we are surrounded by Pro Return National Hockey League logos. Have to blur out Kay Whitmore's address so nobody sends him any hate mail for making us wear restricted sizing in the National Hockey League. I just said us as if
it's just like, yeah.
They don't trickle down to beer league. It's okay. But if you ever wanted NHL gear, Cam's got it here at the Hockey Shop. Pro Returns from Bauer. Whole bunch of stuff he's going to walk us through today. You may be asking why I'm wearing Mike McKenna's gloves. They're on the wrong hands.
Yes, we got a full right set, which is great because it's already rare enough.
2S Pro.
Yes.
What feels like, for sure, like that's definitely got a beefed up palm in it.
Correct.
Don't know if it's a practice palm. Don't think so, but just a full pro palm. Love it.
The cool thing about some of these NHL gear and also Mike's here in particular, there is quite a few custom specs that aren't necessarily available at a retail level. So a few things to kind of go over. We'll start with the beautiful Buffalo Sabres Linus Ullmark set.
Linus.
I gave it a good effort.
You're in my world now, Cam.
Yes, Linus. There we go. Hey, for once, now you're the expert at the moment here. Hey, look at that.
For once.
All right. We'll start with the glove. This is one thing I've been messing around with this, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what angle this is and what it's kind of mimicked after. To me, this almost feels like Reactor 6000, Vaughn T5500 overall feel. Single T, a little bit of a shallower pocket, common for those older Vaughn gloves, but great closure and feel. A little bit thinner on the palm, I would say. It doesn't feel like the most padded one, especially compared to some of the other ones that I got sitting in here.
That's because Linus catches everything in the pocket.
But if you catch everything in the pocket, it shouldn't be a problem. Overall, pretty stock blocker for the most part.
Ultrasonic, not stock on the special label on the back.
Yes.
We've got a little Swedish to share with you today. Cam's going to pronounce that.
Anders Aknut.
And it means?
Breathe and
enjoy. One. See, NHL players like to have little reminders to enjoy the game, folks.
And I probably butchered that pronunciation, so I already know I tried.
Don't worry. We'll reach out to Linus. We'll get the correct one. Walk me through his pads. 2X Pro, obviously beyond the custom graphics. Cam, what else are we looking at here?
Custom specs on this pad, quite a bit. Overall, fitment-wise, it seems to be based off of 2X Pro. Knee cradle, a little bit different. Again, NHL specs that do have to be followed here to a bit of a degree. Doesn't have that same integration as we've seen at Stabiliside or Stabiliflex. Leather strapping, still getting a little bit more of that control. Also, custom overall slip for where that boot strap actually comes through. So that's not something you would have seen on a stock pad as well. As a quick call out, bolted on toe bridge as well. Once again, something that we only see in NHL custom pads. Overall fit and feel wise.
Whoa. Hold on. Is that pillow removable? Oh, it's not. Psych! I thought it was a removable pillow, in which case I would have said, Kay Whitmore never should have signed off on this because they're not allowed to be removable. But it looks removable and it's actually stitched in at the base.
He didn't sign off on these ones.
Oh, interesting. That's worth noting.
All right, moving on, because we got still quite a few more pads to cover. You can pronounce it for me. You're the expert.
Prosvetov.
First name?
Ivan.
Pads in front of me here.
Do you know what team he plays for?
Phoenix Coyotes.
They would be the Arizona Coyotes now. Good try.
Oh, you got me on that one. All right.
Pretty sure you got yourself on that one.
So this pad seems to be an interesting combination of a ultrasonic and a 2X Pro. Stabila slide knee. Overall, still 2X Pro feel from the knee down. Quite a bit stiffer though. This is one of the stiffest pads that we've got in the collection. This one I can't, come on. I can't put really any flex into that.
Hyperlight blocker.
Hyperlight blocker. Stock Hyperlight glove. We do have an additional set that does have a thicker palm as well. And it is labeled P, so his practice.
So you can actually buy the set and get an extra practice glove.
If you would like. Yes, absolutely.
I like.
So that covers that. Now, pop that away.
I'm just going to hold on to the pretty ones.
That's fine. I've got some nice pretty ones in front of me. And if you recognize this one, Devin Dubnyk.
This is a graphic that actually premiered on InGoalMag.com from one of the summer camps up in Kelowna with Doobie.
It's a nice humble brag that we can throw in there too as well. I want to start off with the glove that Kevin's messing around with. Can't realize that I have the blocker right here, but that's okay. So beyond the custom graphic itself, now we've had a little bit of debate over what we think this is. It may be the coveted Bauer 580 clone. So we're still kind of undecided on exactly what it is, but in terms of enclosure-wise, it's unlike anything else that we have on the wall. Maybe by the time this video airs, we can get Kevin to maybe have a little bit of pro confirmation for us.
We'll send Doobie a note.
There you go. See, that kind of insight that you only get here at the Hockey Shop and In Goal Mag teamed up.
Walk us through the pads, idiot.
Okay. Pad-wise, very custom still, and a lot of some of the, what we call, I would say, older features that we've seen on the previous models. To me, this is based off of a 1S pad. Still the integration of the thigh wrap, and Kevin can attest that
Doobie didn't like knee pads.
Doobie didn't like knee pads. Big proponent of knee pads over here, so these are removable. They are just laced in if you did want to take those off. Leg channel is still a 2X pad, or 1X, depending on how far you want to go back. Overall, leg channel, things like that, again, still kind of holds true to some of the original 1S, 1X pads. Very, very steep pre-curve to the pad, something that you normally don't see, especially at the retail level. Still some okay flex to it, though, again, as well. So that covers
the pads,
gloves,
2X Pro blocker for Doobie, but if you weren't into Doobie specs, you could actually mix and match them with these Andrew Hammond gloves because it's all green, and he obviously got them when he was with the Minnesota Wild.
Great segue into that as well. So another one here to check out. Overall feels like pretty close to a stock ultrasonic. So that one kind of holds itself true. Ultrasonic blocker, once again, kind of holding true to just what would be pretty much stock specs. Next. I mean, I think we've covered most of it there. I wonder. Actually,
I thought there was something special.
Maybe a Stanley Cup winner's glove and blocker.
2-time Stanley Cup winner.
Excuse me, pardon me. 2-time.
That custom logos on the Andrei Vasilevskiy
custom
setup.
Embroidery, custom glove as well. Really calling this one out. This one's probably one of the key highlights that I've got.
You can feel the extra padding in there for sure.
Yes. Overall, extra padding. Pretty much stock Hyperlight blocker for the most part. Maybe a little bit bigger on the palm wise. Not the exact same material as what you'd see on the stock blocker as well in terms of for the palm fit. Glove overall feel wise, to me it almost feels closer to an ultrasonic set. But I would say overall feel wise, it kind of splits the difference between the two. Labeled as a Hyperlight, feels more like an ultrasonic to me.
Gonna take some breaking in. There's extra padding in there.
All right, so all of this gear you're gonna find on sale.
You missed one.
I did. Maybe one more additional one here, just because there is another cool spec to call out here.
Anders Nilsson, well, with the Ottawa Senators, clearly based on the colors.
Yes, thank you for showing me that I've already seen it. I'd like to call out the blocker on this one. This is that ever hidden / coveted 1X blocker, the 2-piece series. This is available at a stock retail. You can custom order that. However, it is a nice call out in terms of overall feel. Again, being a little bit thicker, a bit more balanced on some of the guys, as they were saying. Also, custom glove, to me, this feels like our Ullmark set in terms of the actual break and feel wise, just with the double T. A little bit of that shallower pocket. But as you said, literally focused on that catch, so you don't need that depth, right? So all this gear up on sale, up on thehockeyshop.com. You will find this all kind of going live April 8th.
No, Cam. It's on the 16th.
Any uncertainty about fit, spec, just make sure you give Cam a call with any questions about some of the, like you said, there are some unique features on these Pro Return pads beyond the sweet custom graphics. If you got any questions, give him a call at
604-589-8299.
Whatever you do, don't call the number over here on the screen.
Or you can call our 1-800 number at 1-800-567-7790.
If anybody happened to catch Kay's number, it's not actually on there. We apologize, Kay.
Thanks, Kevin.
You little rascal, Woody. You thought you had Kay Whitmore just busted with the thigh. And no, you were so excited you couldn't help yourself.
I was just kidding.
No, you weren't.
You were starting to pull everything out. Pro returns are neat.
Nah. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see this stuff and just see how different. And it's also a reality check. And I think a little bit for us too. We value pro feedback, right? When we do our reviews. I think that's one of the things that separates our reviews. We talk to NHLers about why they switched, why they're trying new things. But even within the context, and sometimes that's great because there are new features that they do have in their gear, right? Like Thatcher Demko when he switched to CCM eFlex 5. There's some really interesting conversations with him about why. But the reality is these guys aren't wearing the same stuff that you and I are buying at retail for the most part. At least not necessarily the latest. Like the Dubnyk stuff has a lot of sort of parts left over from the original 1S. So, there's a lot of sort of, ability to sort of take old and mix with new, features that they like from previous generations that maybe changed in the new generation, but they don't have to when you're in the National Hockey League. Or Linus Ullmark having leather straps on his pads. Don't ask me why. We've actually had that conversation, but he likes to be able to cinch them up a little more. Just some unique features that you're not going to find at retail anywhere else. I guess you could probably custom order some of them, but some of them aren't even available. So it's pretty cool to sort of get to go through this gear and check it all out.
I just like it when you're at the rink and you're playing your game and you're standing in the hallway and the other goalie comes out and he's got new gear and you always have a chat with him and the person says, yeah, these were Linus Ullmarks. These were Phoenix Copley's Pro Return, like different names that will be thrown out. I played in the spring. A guy had a Pro Return, an old mask from somebody. Like it's the stories that you can have and the ability to go down a path with somebody you're skating with is cool.
We got a guy that I met just last week. He might do some testing for us. Played at a pretty high level. I filled in at a much higher level than I normally play, and talked with him after the game because he recognized the gear and some of the stuff we've done from the hockey shop, from the videos.
Nice.
And lo and behold, I kid you not, speaking of Kay Whitmore, he was wearing a Scott Wedgwood CCM NHL chest protector that he had just gotten because after Scott got traded to Dallas, he got a new one. And so this guy goes back, played with him like way back as kids. I guess they go way back from the same hometown. Scott sent him the one he was wearing in Arizona, and he could not believe the amount of protection in this thing. Now, ironically, up until that point, he'd been wearing the first generation of Bauer NHL legal chest protector, which, Hutch, you'll remember from our time up in Kelowna that summer when all those changes came, that original Bauer there wasn't much to it. And we heard from guys like Reimer and Dubnyk that were trying it on the ice. They're like, yeah, man, like if this is the new NHL legal, we have a problem, because it was really streamlined and not all that protective. Obviously, things have evolved for the Bauer model as well since then, but this guy was wearing that original one. And now all of a sudden I'm out against him and he's playing in this CCM NHL Scott Wedgwood model. And he's like, man, like, I didn't feel anything. It was night and day compared to what he had going on before. And they were, again, both not necessarily pro returns because he knows them personally, but in that vein of, models and things that you can't normally get, but worn by NHL goaltenders. So I thought that was pretty cool. And also cool, always cool after a game to meet a fellow goalie and then really geek out over gear and meet somebody who might be able to test some of our new stuff for us. So it's an exciting time.
Confidence that you feel when you're wearing somebody's pro return, like stuff that's designed for the National Hockey League that was shipped there with that particular desire. I wonder, and with now the graphics and what we can see, there might be some really cool custom sets popping up at your local rink with pro returns. Did you have a favorite part about what you saw with the pro return little segment that you just did with Kevin? I want to make sure everybody knows, go to YouTube and check out the channel, because you can watch the video and see all of that cool gear that Cam and Woody walked through, and let us know at that point, either whether you're listening right now or watching the YouTube, what your favorite pro return piece of equipment would be, and which goaltender, which brand, and love to compare it and give people an idea of some of the responses next week.
Mine was definitely Mike McKenna's, because Cam sits to my left, so putting on the full right set allowed me to have my blocker on my left hand, which isn't normal for me, but made for easy punching motions towards Cam. Didn't have to reach across the body if I was giving him a shot for some of his stupid comments. So I like McKenna's set just for, at least for the environment of doing the gear segment. If not for, I'd have a little trouble playing with it with the wrong hand and everything, but it helped me punch Cam a few times. So that was my favorite.
I'm not sure that part even made the podcast cut. We always keep some stuff out of the podcast because it doesn't really translate to the audio medium. But if you do check it out on YouTube, you'll see Kevin punching Cam and all sorts of great stuff. It was a lot of fun filming that day. Darren, thanks for mentioning the comments, because I love that that's starting to really evolve over on the YouTube channel. And a couple of the videos have been inspired now by questions and comments that viewers have left for us over there. We've got some good discussion going on. Cam quite often chimes in with answers when people have some gear questions for him. And another one, actually, Woody and Cam often talk in the videos how you have to think about your gear sizing based on how you're strapping up your pads. So one of the challenges to Woody and Cam that I haven't given to Woody yet is do a video on how you might strap your pads for various situations, whether you want them a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, a little bit more mobile, whatever you might want to do. Let's answer some of those questions. But I must say I love the Ullmark set as well, because I'm a proud graduate of the Buffalo Sabres hockey school. My uncle was a hockey coach, lived in Buffalo, went down, stayed with him, and played against a bunch of the Sabres players, of course, back in the day, would go to the camp, and just special memories with Buffalo, and those sets are just spectacular. And the Arundel ones as well, although they weren't there.
I wasn't a big fan of the slug era, but I do like the
yeah, I agree.
The traditional.
Yeah, I was way before the slug era.
And we've kind of corrected that and righted the ways on the Buffalo Sabres side of things. Let's go to the Boston area and the Boston Pride. And Katie Burt is our feature interview this week, brought to you by Sensorina VR, Hutch.
Yeah, and you know what? Exciting week, guys. I don't know if you saw, but just in the last couple days, Sensorina's got a new release out. And one of the great things about Sensorina, as we've mentioned before, is that it's ongoing developed software. It's not just a purchase and you're stuck with it. They're always coming out with small improvements, and then 3 or 4 times a year, sort of major releases. And I'm excited about 2 things in the new release. We got to get the headsets on and see what we think of them live. I haven't had an opportunity yet, guys. Number 1, we often talk about Sensorina being a great opportunity to prepare to go on the ice, start seeing some shots, get the hands warm, get the eyes ready. They've now added specific warm-up routines, so you don't have to make up your own, pick from the drills and so on. You can just go into the warm-up routines. You've got sort of a 12-minute routine to get you ready to go on the ice. So Woody could probably even do it while he's foam rolling, or maybe fit it in between foam rolling sessions, but a great opportunity to warm up your eyes, warm up your hands before you hit the ice. And whether it's young goaltenders or all the way up to pro, people are seeing that make a difference before they hit the ice. So set warm-ups, beautiful new addition to the Sense Arena system. And then the other one that they've added, guys, is a shot locator, so that you can now go into a drill and say specifically of certain locations that they offer you where you want that shot to hit the net. One of the things that I find a little frustrating as a goaltender is that you might struggle with a particular shot, but a shooter can't recreate that for you perfectly time and time again until you can get it down. So if you're struggling with a particular area, you can say, put the puck here. You could take 10 shots in a row there until you sort of dial it in, and then maybe go back to something a little bit more random, because of course the game ultimately is random. But one of the best ways to practice your skills is to repeat that same skill over and over and over again. And now you've got that opportunity with the shot locator. So Sense Arena, continuous improvements. They're making massive difference in the game for everyone. By the way, if you happen to have a player in your house, as we've mentioned before, comes with 2 licenses. So the player in your house can use the player version. And they've updated that with some brand new stick physics as well. So lots of great stuff happening over in Sense Arena, guys.
And you know who's going to appreciate those changes and updates at Sense Arena? Katie Burt. Our featured guest this week on Sense Arena is a user. And one of the things we talk about is sort of some of the, and I would encourage folks, as you hear her start to talk about detaching in terms of the stick on blocker saves and prioritizing blocker coverage over where the stick is, take a look at the featured image that we use in the podcast this week, because it's a great example of what she talks about. And it's something that is maybe I got a little confused about during the conversation. But again, she saw a picture of herself from the championship weekend for the PHF, and it was just this great example of something she'd been working on, repetition for a certain save in a certain location, the kind of thing you'd be able to do in a Sense Arena environment. And that's one of the other things she talks about, how important Sense Arena has been when you can't get on the ice, which has been difficult for the past couple of years because of the pandemic. Also difficult at times because of limited practices within the women's game, not as much as she was used to in college. So something we've reiterated a lot in the past, like great chance to work on your game without needing to get on the ice. And that's something that Katie Burt echoes in this interview as well.
And how to get champagne out of your hockey gear, at least a part of it. Something that I've had to deal with over the years. Beer, champagne. Anybody bringing the hard booze into your skates? That's when I drew.
We got a guy that doesn't. Yeah, we got a guy that doesn't drink beer, so we have a little bottle of Crown. I got to make sure there's Crown and ginger for him in the post game skates.
Still trying to get that out of your gear. Never thought I'd go that. Take that, Yaroslav Halak.
I've had that problem too, Darren. The difference for me is that it's not because of celebrations. It's because I'm just usually so tired I spill all over myself.
I played with a Japanese guy, and he often would, near the end of the season, take a trip back to Japan to visit friends and family, and then came back for the final year-end playoff tournament, won the championship, and got to drink sake out of the championship trophy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, those are all really neat, but they pale in comparison to what Katie's done lately. It's our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena VR.
Really excited to welcome back to the In Goal Radio podcast, Katie Burt, now Isabel Cup champion with the Boston Pride, recently crowned. We missed it. We got one episode in between you winning and you being on the podcast, so we missed it by a week. But thank you so much, Katie, for joining us after a pretty good celebrations following the championship.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back.
What's the experience been like? I saw some good social media posts from the Bruins game. I thought it was appropriate that you guys got invited, at least for you get invited to celebrate at the Bruins game, and it's Tuukka's night.
Yeah, no, it's been a whirlwind. We got back on, I think it was Wednesday of last week, and we've kind of been, whether it's having our own cup parties or going to the Bruins, we've kind of been all around town, and hopefully we'll continue that. But nonetheless, it was fitting on Tuca night, which was actually pretty special and pretty cool for me just to be there for that as well.
I should have opened with the question that you pondered on social media after the big win. Have you figured out how to get champagne out of your goaltending equipment?
Not the equipment yet. The jersey, a little bit of vinegar will do the trick, I guess.
Not going to throw any vinegar on the gear yet, though, eh?
No, that one scares me a little bit more than the jersey does.
So it's been a while since we've caught up. It's been a couple of years, and some big changes for you, both in terms of what you've been doing on the ice since we last talked, coaching roles with Stop at Goaltending, expanded roles there, and on the ice, moving back to the PHF and with the Boston Pride, a team that drafted you first overall in 2017. I kind of feel like there's a whole bunch of different places we got to go, but let's start with going back to the Pride, going back to the PHF, formerly NWHL, that decision, what brought you to it, and then just walk me through the season and the lead up to, becoming champions, back-to-back championships for the team, but you're first.
Yeah, obviously it was a pretty heavy decision. I played with the Pride in 2019, but most of the friends that I've developed are in the PWHPA, right? And so to leave them was a little bit challenging, but at the end of the day, for me, it was getting to play for something, a championship, and getting to be a part of a real team. Those two things were really important to me, and I just felt like I didn't want to spend another year in the PWHPA with the unknown. So getting to be a part of the Pride this year was really special, and our team was. I don't know if you could tell in the third period, but we were putting it all on the line for each other, and I thought that showed throughout the last period of the final. And, that's just a testament to the locker room and the culture that we've created.
From a season on a whole, like just the strides the league took, being on ESPN in the States, like the Premier Hockey Federation under the new name, under the new label, what kind of an impact did that have on you on a day-to-day basis? Like just sort of seeing the growth on that side of things, like did that impact the operations from where you stood as well?
Yeah, it's huge for the game, right? We talk about visibility all the time in the women's game and how we need it so desperately. And ESPN was a huge part of that. I had people texting me being like, dude, I watched your game. I had no idea. Like it was actually that entertaining and that fun to watch. And these are my friends. So that was pretty eye-opening for me where, there were so many people that came out of the woodwork to just say, hey, I watched your game and, by the way, congratulations, but that was awesome product that you guys have on the ice. And I think, since my first year in the former NWHL to this year in the PHF, like we have grown exponentially, and I'm really excited to kind of see where that growth goes in the next 3 or 4 years with, that huge announcement that the Board of Governors came with. Like that's not to be taken lightly. And I'm really excited to kind of see where that goes.
What about your own game? What's grown in the years between? Like you said, it was NWHL when you were there. You spent a couple of years with the PWHPA, and then you head back to the renamed PHF, win a championship. But in the gap in between leading up to this year, how has your game changed? How has your game evolved? Especially under trying circumstances where you maybe didn't have as much opportunity for ice time and games. And like you said, that structure that you were looking for by heading back to the PHF.
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing is I'm back in the toe tag gang.
You knew that question was coming, didn't you?
I did. We can talk about that a little bit later. No, I mean, my game has taken a 180 since we last spoke, and it's completely changed since my USA hockey days and my college days, and it's changed for the better, obviously. Whereas my skating has gone exponentially better. My hands are almost flawless. We can always be better, but those are my two biggest attributes. And my ability to read plays is, to me, what sets me apart from other goalies in the PHF. And so those three things combined have just kind of transformed my game. And I used to be this ugly goalie that just made saves and nobody knew how. And now I look the part and I play the part, and I feel so much more relaxed and calm in the back of the net where, I know I'm going to get to my spot, and I know I'm going to be set, and I know everything's going to kind of take care of itself.
Okay, so now you got to help me through the process of that. Because for those that didn't listen to the first interview, and we're like I said, it's over 2 years ago now. I'll refresh their memories. You started playing street hockey and played out, I think, all the way through Pee Wee as well as goaltending. But you didn't get your first instruction. Like, you weren't detecting it. You were that street hockey, for lack of a better term, goalie right through until college before you sort of started getting into the technical side of the game, if I remember correctly. How do you take these next steps, especially at a time when you weren't playing as much? Like you said, reading the game. How'd you get better at reading the game when you weren't getting to play as many games as I know you would have liked?
Yeah, so I mean, my first formal instruction was maybe my sophomore year in high school. I was 15, and that was when I kind of started really getting into the U18 USA side of things. But I think the thing for me is I coach for a living, and I have to explain to kids and teenagers and adults, here's how you read a play. And sometimes they understand it and sometimes they don't. And if they don't understand it, you got to figure out a different way. And so for me, there's so much repetition of coaching and teaching. And I've learned so much from stop at goaltending and just being able to, be on the ice with these kids and teach them and learn from them. And so that has helped my game tremendously. So I can take those little nuggets of information that I'm either giving or I'm getting from these kids, and I can kind of take them into my own lessons where I'm actually being trained and kind of work on those. So that's kind of been huge. And plus, working at a goalie company comes with its perks, right? I skate not a lot, but often, and I get a lot of one-on-one instruction from my colleagues. So that obviously helps a ton.
And obviously, we got to give a shout out to Stop at Goaltending, where you are the women's director of goalie development, but also the director of hockey operations, if I read the text from Brian DeCord correctly. So that sounds like that's played a big role. That teaching and that ability to sort of articulate things so other people understand it, has that forced you, it sounds like it's helped, has it forced you to rethink other parts beyond reading
Absolutely.
the game? You talked about skating and hands, and sounds like teaching has become an ongoing education process for you as a goalie as well.
Absolutely. I think, especially with a position that's evolving so much, there's always new things to be learned. And as soon as you think you know everything, then it's over. Like I said, these kids actually teach me stuff where, they might ask a question and, it might sound kind of stupid, but then you think about it and you're like, well, actually, that's kind of a good point. And then you got to kind of rethink and mull it over and, kind of come back. And I'm a big fan of goalie talk. And so some kids don't like to train with me because I'm a big hey, what do you think? Hey, why did you just do that? And sometimes they don't know, and that's fine. But I like to just kind of make them think about why they're doing, X, Y, or Z. Well, why did you go into the RVH there? I don't think you need to, but I want you to tell me why, because you might be right and I might be wrong. But that's fine. And by the way, there is really no right or wrong. It's all how you're reading the play versus how I'm reading the play. And so that's kind of the thing for me where I kind of opened my eyes, where I was like, everyone's trying to put a square peg in a round hole. Maybe we're all just trying to figure out how to chisel it down. So it's really been a wild learning experience for me, and it's obviously helped me a ton in my game as well. But just from a life standpoint, it's amazing the things that you can learn about something as trivial as goaltending.
So are there other examples? Can you give me any specifics? Maybe it's not reading a play, maybe it's skating, where that thought process and that thinking about things differently has led to concrete changes in how you approach the game or execute. Whether it's a certain play or a certain read, or even just when you talked about your skating in your hands and how things have changed there over the past couple of years.
I think the example that comes to my mind, and I'm not sure if I'm hitting exactly what you want, but I've started to go into the shin lock a little bit more on my glove side. And my 15-year-old self would be appalled at that statement. But I think for me, I'm getting older. I'm not old by any means, but I'm getting older. I'm 25. I grew up in the butterfly era where you're just hammering your hips away. And for some reason on the glove side, I can't feel that spot right above the pad with my glove. And I've tried going overhand, and every time I go overhand, I get hit off the wrist with a puck. So that's not worth it for me. So I like to go into the shin lock, but I also like to do it because it's way easier on the hips. And my coaching partner, John, he's like, over your lifetime, maybe you give up 1 or 2 goals because of it, right? You just don't make it to the post quick enough. But for my sanity and my body's health, like that's something that's like worth it for me. And my 15-year-old self would have been like, well, that's stupid. I don't care about what my hips feel like. But as I'm starting to get a bit older, like I have sprained ankles galore all the time. And so all of that tension that you're putting on your ankles, your knees, and your hips and the RVH, to me on the glove side, is just not really worth it. And I have that argument with kids probably once a week. Well, I don't like to do that. Well, that doesn't make any sense. And it's like, just think about it. Try it. Add it to the toolbox. We'll go from there.
And like anything, the key is getting comfortable with something different, right? Like if you weren't comfortable executing in the shin lock, it probably doesn't work, right? But add the tool to the toolbox, rep it out, get better at it. And I'm guessing using the shin lock is, if anything, it should be a little easier in Boston, no?
Yeah.
I mean, you had one of the best. I mean, Tuukka may have been the best at executing out of the shin on post than any goalie in the history of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about why he did it is probably because of his hips. Same idea.
Same thing.
Trying to prolong the career for him, I would assume, is why he started that.
And that's what Bob Essens had told us. I remember him telling us once a summer he would have young goalies or goalie coaches asking him why he didn't stop Tuukka from doing that. And if you remember, there was a point in his career where he was using a little more traditional RVH, and they just decided, same as you said, to go away from it because the wear and tear on Tuukka's body just wasn't worth it, especially as well as he could execute the other way. So, like you said, there's no one way to play this position.
Yeah, and that's my philosophy, right? Like, as a goalie coach, and obviously as a goalie as well, like, I'm not trying to make all of the kids that come through Stop Goaltending, I'm not trying to make them like the perfect goalie. You're just trying to help them become the best version of themselves, whether that's a stand-up goalie, a butterfly goalie, a hybrid goalie. If they want to lay down in the post, that's fine. If that works for them, that works for them. And that's, something that I would get frustrated growing up with when you go to camps or you go to other things where, these goalie coaches are like, well, you have to do this. It's like, no, you don't. Here's why I like to do it this way. And that's what I like my goalies to be able to articulate as well.
So those conversations, now I'm dying to sit in on one of these conversations with your students and hear the back and forth. I'm wondering too, does it continue at the pro level when you're out there on the ice with the other goaltenders, with the Boston Pride? And I forgive me for not knowing this in advance. I'm not sure if you guys had a goaltending coach working with you on a regular basis. Like, did that back and forth? Because I remember going back to when we first met with the national team program and, talking about how different you were from Rigsby at the time, Cavallini now, and I can't remember, it was Hensley, but you guys were such three totally different goalies. And how much of that conversation, like, do you have those conversations still now, with your playing partners about, hey, I did it this way because of that? Like, is that goalie talk exist at the pro level as well?
Absolutely. And actually, one of my goalie partners on the Pride works at Stop Goaltending as well. So we do talk kind of what we like to do, how we like to do it. She is like her name is Victoria Hansen. She is like the queen of double covering on her blocker side, but has like the best blocker on earth. And it fascinates me to this day. Like, she will bait you to go to the blocker side, and then the whole net will be open, and you'll shoot it and she'll save it somehow. And it's amazing to me. But we chat. I love goalie talk, and even if other people don't engage in it as much as I would like, I still like to ask them because, like, Lavisa is freaking, she's huge. She's so much taller than me and Vic, and she plays a completely different game. So I like to just kind of pick their brains on why they do certain things, and like to obviously give them an insight on why I like to do certain things.
Is that what keeps you in love with the position after all these years, after starting, as the got to go in net to play street hockey for your older brother? Is that what keeps you in love with the game? The fact that those conversations exist and there is no just absolute one way to do anything?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is you can never be perfect at it. And I'm a perfectionist and I'm competitive and so driven. And so I want to be perfect. And a lot of times I got to kind of rein it in a little bit because obviously we can't be perfect and you're going to give up goals. That's just the way that life works. But I hold myself to a really high standard. So for example, the goal in the first period of the final was completely unacceptable. And so I was pretty frustrated at that. So it's well, you won, yes, but you could have been better. So let's figure that out next time, because maybe that goal is what is the one that's going to cost you the championship next time or something of that, you can always be better. So let's see where we can go with this thing, because I'm playing the best hockey I've ever played at age 25. So I'm really excited to kind of see what the next few years look like.
.958 save percentage in the regular season, .965 in the playoffs. Perfect is 1,000, but those are pretty remarkable numbers. So obviously you're holding yourself to a high standard. I wonder though how much, if you're that much of a perfectionist, have you had to go through a process mentally where you're able to analyze it later, like you said, that goal that could cost you, maybe next time it does cost you, so you don't want to give it up, but not overanalyze in the moment? Because if you dwell on that within the context of the game at the time, I'm imagining that's not a good thing.
Correct. It's been a huge learning curve for me at age 25, and having had these discussions with so many younger goalies that I coach, is I've grown, and I'm no longer oh my God, well, it's 1-1 and I just gave up a goal that was horrible. And then you're thinking about the goal and the next shot goes in and then you're toast. My younger self, 1,000%, was the kid that was that was so bad. I can't believe I just did that. Thinking about it, and the next goal goes in and then the game's over, because you're now a downward spiral. So, I think I've matured so much in that aspect. Whereas even a similar situation was when I was younger, and even in my college days, if I had a really bad warm up, I would just be done for the game. And I will never forget this year, it was a horrible warm up at home. Pucks were just whizzing by my ears, going bar down, and we ended up winning the game. I got a shutout. And our trainer came up to me and he was like, Birdie, a couple years ago, you probably would have got pulled from that game. And I looked at him and I was like, dude, you saw me in the warm-ups? He was 1,000%. You couldn't stop a beach ball. And I made a point to tell him, I said, Jerry, that's just me being so much more mature and being how ridiculous it is to be okay, well, I had a bad warm-up, so this game is just a lost cause. And so I've definitely grown in that aspect of just being able to recenter, get my mind right, be in the moment, and not try and overanalyze things too much, while still striving to be better and kind of table it for later, analyze it a little bit later.
So question there is that something that just comes, Katie, with experience? Or have you because I know Stop It, that's the one thing every time I see, something that Brian's doing, no stone unturned, right? There's yep. Mental performance work. I know you guys work with Sense Arena as well, all kinds of tools. So in the course of working there, were there some tools or some people that helped you develop that mindset? Or because it's one thing to know, hey, I need to be able to refocus and get back on the game. It's another thing to develop the tools to be able to do it in the moment. Were there some people that helped you or some tools that you use to make sure that one bad goal doesn't snowball within a game?
I think it's a combination of kind of experience and just having so many resources at Stop It and so much information. Even with, technology, just being able to scroll on, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever it is, and get these little nuggets of information. It's kind of like a snowball of, I'm taking all this information and now I have to apply it and figure out how it works for me, which is just like goaltending. What's going to work for me isn't going to work for you. it was just kind of through experience of like trial and error, like what is going to be able to bring me back to center and just push through, be able to ground myself. Here I am, I'm in the moment, focus on the next save, nothing else matters.
And I think it's interesting. It reminds me of a conversation with one of the sports psychologists we've done stuff with, John Stevenson. It's everybody's focus drifts. It's about recognizing it and being able to pull it back when it does.
For me, I tend to get ahead of myself when we're in the game, right? Like, you know, it's 2-0 going into the second period. Is it going to end up 6-0? You know, are they going to score 2 goals a period? Are they going to do this? And it's like, relax, like, chill. It's 2-0. You're in the moment. You can make it 2-0 at the end of the game. You can't control if your team scores or not, but you can keep the game at 2-0, which is much more manageable than a 6-0, a 7-0, because all of a sudden now you're just spiraling into this ditch of thoughts of like, here we go, next goal, I'm fighting the puck, what a bad rebound. It's like, yeah, bad rebound, but you know what, I saved it, so it's fine. You know, it's like developing those types of things has been really difficult for me because I am that type of perfectionist. But in my older age, I think it's really helped me out.
Okay, so have you ever been a catchphrase person? Like we've seen people over the years, we've had a few at ingoalmag.com, like they'll put little sayings in their blocker or something on their stick to remind them of that focus, or is it all just between the ears for you at this point?
Most of it's between the ears. I like to say a few things, like for me, like I am so over prepared. Like I put all the work in, I put so much work in that I just need to remind myself, like, you deserve to be here, you're prepared, and my confidence stems from that, right? Like, for me, I'm not confident if the situation is unknown. But to me, the situation is going to be known if I'm prepared. Like, I know it's coming, I'm prepared, I put in the work, everything else is going to fall into place the way it should.
Like they used to tell us when you're, like if you were ready for a test, right? You wouldn't be nervous if you'd done the work to be prepared for a test. So can you share some insights into what that looks like on a game day for you? What is there a checklist that Katie Burt has where she walks into that game knowing she's prepared? And I'm guessing it's a lot more than just what goes on during that day. It's all the preparation of years and months leading up to it. But is there a sort of game day checklist for you?
No, I've tried that before and I got kind of neurotic about it.
Okay.
So I don't really have much of a pregame routine. I don't really have much of like a checklist. It's just like, you know, I've done all my practice. I've done all the visualization. I've done all of the things that I can control. Now it's just time to go out there and play. And I can't control much of that.
You mentioned earlier, I wanted to loop back a little bit. We talked about the reads. You also mentioned skating and hands. What's changed from a skating perspective and what's changed from a hands perspective? What's allowed you to have hands that you feel so good about within a game right now? And I'm guessing that if it's probably in a lot of ways related, right? Because if you're skating and you're in your spots and you're set, it allows you to sort of maintain access to the hands.
Correct. So for me, I kind of like to shove my hands. I just kind of like to toss them out. For me, that's what keeps them active.
Okay.
So I've done just a ton of work of, you know, visualizing saves on the ice, of keeping my hands out. A cue that I have with my goalie coach is, you know, front third. So I want to make sure that anytime I'm, you know, making a blocker save or catching a puck with my glove, we're making on the front third of my pad. As soon as we start getting to the mid or the back third, that's when we start kind of opening up the shoulders and
turning a little bit.
Turning a little bit, not having active hands. And you know, it's been a little bit of a learning curve for me because, like I said, I'm not a perfectionist. And when you catch a puck on the mid third of your pad, it still looks like it is in front, but it's like not. And so, like, we have just like, I'll just sit in the butterfly at the beginning of every goalie session for like 15 minutes, and we'll just work the hands in front, just working them, making sure everything's on the front third. I've really tried a lot to detach my blocker, meaning just kind of get it parallel, because I've just found that on shots towards my shoulder, I can't really get up there in like a your typical blocker save. It just doesn't work with my shoulder. So I've really tried to start detaching of just getting that blocker parallel to the ice. And I found that's worked pretty good for me. I know Stop It tweeted out a picture. I think it was his first game in Florida. And it was like the first time I had done it in a game. And I had been working on it for like 6 months. Because I had texted to my goalie coach and I was like, can you just believe it took me 6 months to make one of these saves? It's so simple, and it was a perfect save, and nobody batted an eye at it. But I had been working on something so simple for literally 6 months. And as soon as I made the save, I was like, great job, Burt. Just great job. And it's just a simple routine save that no one would think twice about. But a lot of hard work goes into something so simple.
When you say detach, can you just for our listeners try and, I don't know if you can explain that further. I think I understand what you mean by parallel, to the ice, but detach, you mean just off the body a little bit?
Yeah, so instead of making your blocker save with your stick kind of angled towards the ice and your blocker like facing front with your palm and your fingers facing down, you're basically bringing your stick up towards parallel towards the ice. And now your fingers are going to be kind of sideways. And your blocker face is now going to be kind of long towards your body, if that makes sense.
So almost like the mirror of a glove, as opposed to just working up and down a post, you're actually turning it like the length of the blocker is parallel to the ice?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Correct.
Okay.
And I've found I have much more control over rebounds that way.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
think with my blocker when it's front facing, and I found it's a lot easier for me to get up near the shoulder and make saves up there, rather than going kind of normal. That's a really tough save for me, or I kind of have to chicken wing, which just isn't my favorite thing on earth. So we've been working a lot on just getting that blocker kind of parallel in front.
Now, is that when you say your shoulder, like, is that more like a physical limitation thing, Katie, or is that like something just, again, like for everybody's different, every goalie's different, and you're just more comfortable moving it that way than you would be, like you said, the traditional sort of, like I think of goalies trying to we think of box control and the small net in front of you, like they try and work up and down that sort of post out in front of you, and you've definitely got it, sounds like a lot more turned.
Yeah, it's kind of a physical limitation. I don't have bad shoulders or anything, or I haven't been told I have bad shoulders, but for me, that save on like towards the upper part of the shoulder for the blocker, like kind of pinches when I go forward.
Okay.
So I just try to find something that works for me, and the detaching, I think, is the best option.
Okay. This sounds like an article to me later on. I also love the front third, middle third, back third. I've never thought of it that way. So, but this is what comes from conversations, right? Like, yep. I know what you mean by hands out front, but being able to tell these, have these cues in a way that relates differently to different people, because everybody learns differently. Everybody hears things differently. Yep. Is that something you came up with, the front third, or a coach came up with, or is that something you even back and forth we've talked about with your students?
No, this is John Caradu. I worked with him throughout the year. Him and Brett Gilmore are my two goalie coaches that I've been working with throughout the year, and we've been working on pretty similar things. But John coins a lot of terms, and he's the king of one-liners, and he developed that front third. And that really kind of in my brain was like the thing that stuck, because even if you're making a save on the mid third of your pad, your eyes have to go an extra 2 to 5 millimeters. And while, that might not sound like a lot in a game where we're talking about, split seconds and millimeters, like that stuff matters. So we're just, detaching, getting front third. Like we spent so much time on just those simple things where it's like, I know how to make a glove save. I've done a million of them, but it's getting it to the point where it's almost automatic. To me, like 95% of my saves when I'm on are with my hands or with my mid, I forget what John calls it. So he calls it center mass. So I'm a center mass goalie, right? Like my hands and anything that's hitting me in the center mass, if I'm on, that's how I'm making basically 95% of my saves.
All this work on hands, I when I was looking through some old social media posts, and I know that Brian's obviously involved with Sense Arena. Is that a tool, especially when maybe practice time isn't as much as you'd like or were used to in college. Has that been a tool that's allowed you to work on the hand stuff, especially? Like I think of it, at least from our perspective and a lot of the goalies we've talked to, a really valuable tool for both sort of eyes and tracking and hands as well. Have you used it in that regard?
I have. I love the goalie cannon is the drill that it's called. And I love that drill because it's so simple. You know exactly where the puck's going. You can read it off the stick. And when you're working on something as simple as, catching in front or detaching, you can do that, 10 times in a row. And yeah, it's coming, but you just hop on the VR and you're done in 15, 20 minutes. And you've got 100, 200 reps in 15 minutes without having to go to a rink. So it's a huge tool, and we might not get as much ice time as we would like. So being able to have something like that is super important. You
talked about skating. What's changed there? Because we think, we think of, especially as far along as you are, like you said, you're only 25. It's not like it's not forever, but when we someone say their skating has changed so much in a couple of years, like what do you mean by that?
I just put a huge premium on my edge work, and I spend anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week on the ice teaching these kids, and I'm the first 10 to 15 minutes of their lesson is always edge work. So I'm getting in hours on hours on hours of edge work while I'm coaching, and then I'm also doing a few hours of edge work in my own lessons. And I used to just kind of half-ass it because I stunk at it, but I've really kind of bought in to really going all out, really trying to get better, and really getting uncomfortable on my edges because they've gotten so much better in the past 2 years since I started really kind of pushing the envelope and getting uncomfortable.
Give me an idea what you mean by and edge work is a catchphrase that I think can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So give me an idea what type of movements you're getting into that are uncomfortable and what type of skating you're doing to try and, improve that edge work. Are we talking about crease movement patterns? Are we talking about some of the more unique, we'll see people going side to side on a rink or even the length of a rink, sometimes on one edge, figure eights, all kinds of different things. What for you has been the focus and the key to, getting comfortable in uncomfortable situations and spots?
It's a little bit of everything. I know that's not the answer you're hoping for, but no. I do a lot of crease work. We had been working on quite a few things, but my back leg on my glove side trailed, and we had been working on that for 6 months. We were doing just small crease movements, but we were also doing kind of figure skating type of things where we're hopping around, we're jumping around, we're going inside edge, we're going outside edge, we're holding, we're transitioning. There's a whole plethora of things that we were kind of working on and just trying to spice it up a little bit because there's, goalie only does so many movements, right, in the game, but yeah, we're trying to keep it light, keep it interesting, keep it fun, or else it could be really boring to work on edge work.
Well, I was going to ask, that is one of the things, right? It doesn't matter how many articles I write at ingolmag.com with whether it's Carey Price or Katie Burt stressing the importance of all the skating, crease movement patterns, edge work. Everybody wants pucks. We want drills. We want live action. We want it. So how do you keep it fun? Just by mixing it up, making sure the kids stay engaged with that stuff? Or is it just a matter of stressing to them that, hey, this is like the broccoli on the side of the plate. You may not love it, but it's good for you.
Yeah, we try and keep it light. I'm really animated when I coach, whether it's jumping around, sliding around, spraying kids with snow, knocking their sticks out of their hands. You just kind of got to keep them engaged a little bit. And some of them are like, when's game time? And it's like, well, that's not for 50 minutes. So we're going to get pucks in 10 minutes, but it's tough. Obviously some kids are more challenging than others. And we have a whole spectrum of different types of kids that come through our door, but they know it's important. And when they start to kind of not buy in anymore, that's when you start asking them to do the little more challenging stuff. And when they can't do it, well, you say, well, why can't you do it? I thought this was easy. And then they kind of rein it in a little bit. Because, at the end of the day, they know it's important. It's just kind of reminding them of that.
Okay, so hey, I'm going to rewind here for a second because I just found, as you've been giving me that great answer, I've been scrolling Twitter to find that blocker save. And I think I just want to make sure for our audience, because I think I may have misunderstood and misrepresented the detachment part. For some reason, I thought you meant almost you had your blocker turned horizontal. Like, so you meant the stick is horizontal parallel to the ice as opposed to the actual blocker being turned. I was seeing it in my mind's eye differently, so I want to make sure I correct that for our audience. You're not making saves with your blocker pointing straight out.
Let me find that picture so we can kind of chat about it all, because it is like it's kind of parallel, but it's kind of not. The way that I like to teach it to the kids is what I actually do is we sauce pucks at their face because they have to save it or else they get hit in the face. And we take their stick away from them, actually. So what we do is kind of sauce it, and they'll just go parallel. And what they find, thank you.
So in other words, you're prioritizing the blocker and not getting as attached to where your stick is on those saves.
Exactly.
Because that's the one challenge of the blocker, right? Is the fact it also controls the stick, and if you're always trying to maintain stick on the ice and all those saves, you're going to lose sort of the ability to sort of manage your blocker.
Exactly. And, this type of save, I like to start teaching it, like actually having them go straight parallel. Because then they can, as we start to add in the stick, it adds like a counterweight. So it becomes less parallel, as you can see more of like in the picture here. Because if I'm going full parallel, then my stick's going to be kind of near my face.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I just wanted to we'll make sure we throw that picture up as part of the podcast so people can check the notes and have a look at it. I just wanted to make sure. I think I misunderstood it, Katie, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't misleading the audience with my description, because your description made a lot more sense. And this is the challenge, right? This goes back to, being able to come up with definitions and phrasing, coaching your kids. And I'm at 48. I have the mind of a 6-year-old. So making sure that everybody understands things the same way.
Yeah, that's the challenge with coaching. In 2 years of coaching, I've coached. I coached a deaf kid. I coached multiple autistic kids, learning disabilities, like the whole thing. And learning how to explain that to all of them has been really eye-opening for me, and it's obviously helped my game tremendously. But it's interesting just how different everybody is in the way that they receive the information and then put it into use.
Well said. One of the last things I wanted to talk about a little bit is the experience with Pro this year, how it's changing, where you're at. You made a big decision to leave PWHPA to go back to the PHF. Where are we at? We talked at the beginning about ESPN and that partnership and how important it was, the $25 million investment that's been made into the PHF to sort of increase salaries and healthcare programs. We got new ownership being injected. Where are we at now? Where do we need to go to take next steps? As big as that step was to have a championship game and a championship entire weekend on ESPN, what are the next steps?
I think at the end of the day, we just need all of the best players in one place. And, what that means, I don't really know. But, I think at the end of the day, we need everybody playing in the same spot because our product would be infinitely better. And I think that, I don't know what's happening with the NHL and if they even had meetings between the two sides, but I'm really hoping that they kind of come to a resolution, whatever that may be, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to play hockey and grow the game, and we're all trying to get to the same spot. We just kind of disagree on how we're going to get there. So I really hope that they can kind of figure it all out, before selfishly my career ends, because I would like to be a part of that and part of the growth of the game.
No doubt. What about within the season? Was it closer, your experience with the PHF this year compared to when it was still the NWHL, your first time around, in terms of the support, the infrastructure, whether it's practice times? I mean, you're still having to have another job. It can't be your primary job. We're not there yet. but did you see some growth in terms of what you had available to you as an athlete? Are we starting to get towards the professional standards that were sort of being sought like we're part of the big push from the PWHPA side of things?
Absolutely. The league in the past few years since I've been away has grown exponentially. Obviously things aren't perfect and a lot of things could be better, but at the end of the day, things are improving and they're improving at a rapid pace. And for example, like our ownership is willing to listen to us when we say, hey, we think that these things should be better. And, if you really want things to come together, here are the things that we think need to happen in order for that to happen, for some of the players to come and play for the Boston Pride or whatever team. It doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, if somebody signs with the Metropolitan Riveters, that makes our league better. So I hope that they can get some of those things. We can get, better practice times and things of that sort. But obviously that's not up to me. So.
Okay. And hey, listen, I was actually going to lead with this. You teased it earlier and I forgot all about it till now because I just got so engrossed in the conversation about all the evolution of your game. You got a legendary article on no toe ties. You had everyone raising an eyebrow a couple of years ago when you explained why no toe ties, but now they're back. How did Katie Burt, did you just give in to all the coaches that told you it was crazy not to have them or what?
No, I actually, I never did get hurt by not having them. So I would like to state that on record.
The original premise still works.
Yes, for all the people that said I was going to get hurt, you were wrong. No, I liked the no toe ties because I would always I would nail my toe locks. They were perfect. And my boot was super soft. So I felt comfortable doing that. My CCMs, my boot was like really, really soft. And so when I went to my Trues, I got a harder, more firm boot. And it just didn't really feel right to have no toe ties. So what I did was I just have them with enough slack to do something, but they're pretty loose because
so they're there but not there.
Correct. Like I hadn't worn them for so long that when I had put them on properly, I actually had a pain going up my knee because it was like torquing my ankle in a way that hadn't been torqued for years. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm going with like 12 knots and it's like not doing anything, but it is keeping it on my boot a little bit more where it's like the Trues that I have, I love them and they're super stiff on the boot. And so it just didn't really feel right for me to go without toe ties.
So the toe ties are back, but really it's still the no toe tie philosophy.
Pretty much. I still nail my toe locks, so
that's all that matters.
I'm not pushing off of laces either. So
what do you push off then with? That was the second part of that question.
I'm pushing with my toe, but I think there's so many knots down there that it doesn't really matter.
So it's just the toe of the skates where you get your leverage from.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I love it. Well, unless you're in the shin lock, right? Because there is no one way to play this position. Correct. Awesome. Katie, I took up way more time than I said I would. This is 48 minutes almost of goaltending gold. I can't thank you enough. We ended our last conversation 2 years ago with me saying we got to get you on for more. I'm sorry it took this long. But the reminder after the championship weekend was perfect. I really appreciate you amidst all these celebrations, amidst such a special time for you and your teammates, making the time for the In Goal Radio podcast and catching us up on your career. It's been a fascinating conversation and one I hope to continue in the near future. Perhaps if I can get some footage, if the folks at ESPN would be kind enough to allow us to use some footage, I think we need a Katie Burt. We talked about this last time. I really think we need a Katie Burt's pro read, especially given how much your reads, you say, have changed over the past couple of years.
No, I think that would be awesome.
Okay, well, we'll make that happen. Thanks again for taking the time today and joining us.
No, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah, from party hopping around Boston to more stories in the tank, ready for the next time that she comes on. Pretty cool journey, and I loved her rationale for switching leagues and what she had in mind and the reasoning that went into that, Woody.
Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff there, and I think the best part is a little bit of a slow start because awkward questions from me at the beginning. But we got rolling once we just started talking goaltending, and when I talked towards the end there about having her back on and getting her in for some maybe some pro reads or some pro drills, I just thought there were so many good takeaways there about learning to read the game, which is why I want to get her on pro reads, but also like the thing about front third. Like we always talk about active hands and hands out in front, but sort of breaking that down, like are you making saves when you're in the butterfly at the front third of your pads, the middle third, or the back third? And sort of, again, just another way of sort of thinking about it and breaking it down. And I love how she talks about learning as a goalie while coaching because of the need to be able to sort of communicate these different aspects of the game, these different techniques to people who hear things differently, to people who learn differently. And there was some of that going on when we had that blocker discussion, me misinterpreting what she was saying a little bit and then coming back to it after seeing a picture. She's somebody who thinks visually. So it's just a fascinating discussion about teaching goalies, about how teaching goalies can make you better as a goalie. And I want to have an opportunity to tap into some of those thoughts more. So hopefully we'll get Katie, not just back on the podcast, but back at ingoalmag.com with some tips. Because the last time she was featured in one of our segments, it was pro gear. And that's because she wasn't wearing toe ties. But that too has changed in the past 2 years.
It's amazing how people learn differently and can absorb things differently. And it probably goes to sometimes why connections between a goalie coach and a goalie work so well, because it may not just the philosophy is the same, but just that they're on the same page on that side of it.
Yeah, it takes a very skilled teacher to be able to work with students who learn in very different ways. So I think you're quite right, Darren. There are going to be some goalie coaches out there who can deal with all sorts of different students, and some that will have their own way of doing things. And I expect that Katie is probably one of the good ones. And I can definitely vouch for what she's experienced from being able to learn through teaching. I've taught a few things that for the first time as an actual classroom teacher, and look back and thought, really, I did not understand this as a student. It's remarkable how much you learn when you have to communicate it to somebody else. So good for her. And she's obviously using some of that time on the ice very well to not just to learn through communicating, but the edge work drills and so on. I just love that she was taking advantage of those opportunities to build her skill just through demonstrating or working alongside her students. Love it.
I wish I would have known this teaching and student and absorption issues during high school, because then I could have blamed it all on that.
I literally said the other day, I wish I could go back to high school again and upgrade all those grade 12 courses now that I actually understand this stuff.
Really?
Yes. I mean, I don't want to go back to high school. Although those were fun days, but I
like
just
the high school part.
I'd love a do-over.
I didn't like the coursework.
Pardon me?
I didn't like the coursework. Like high school is fine.
Yeah.
Giddy up with that.
I agree. I had different priorities.
Woody's not saying anything.
School?
I mean, as soon as we talk about school, I just sort of curl up in a fetal position. That's how you become a journalist.
As your teachers no doubt did, Kevin.
Oh, yeah. Woody's graduated. Yay. That was probably the best part of the year, was when Woody graduated and they got rid of that side of it. All the extra work that went into it.
Listen. As my dad told me when I finally graduated university, I told him a lot of people go to school for 8 years, post-secondary education. And his response without missing a beat was, yes, they're called doctors. So I spent a few extra years in university, a long time to end up with a journalism degree. But I took a roundabout route. So that's why I sort of get into the fetal position thinking about school, because I spent more than enough bloody time there, perhaps enjoyed myself too much at times. My brother went back to school to become a teacher. He was a mechanic. He went back to school to get his teaching certificate, and now he teaches it at the university level or at the trade, like college trades level. And I have so much admiration for him because I could never go back to school. Never. Except for the education of goaltending. That I'm willing to take part in on a daily basis.
PhD, buddy.
Kevin got into this actually when he was asked a question in school. Teacher said, Kevin, can you just give us the answer, please? Now, 1 + 1 equals. Anybody else would just say 2, but Kevin is 2. Well, and speaking of 2, there's actually 2 goaltenders on every hockey team. And actually, they all have 2 skates. And did I mention the brand new CCM skates? They're actually outstanding. And CCM actually makes sticks as well. They're beautiful sticks. I was actually talking to Thatcher Demko the other day, and he's got a new CCM stick, and it's outstanding. And maybe I should stop now.
And then they said, that's true. And then he went into the whole true line, and it was done. Finished.
His classmates loved it because Kevin, what's 1 + 1? And then the class is over before anybody else has to answer a question.
That's why they love me as a radio guest. 2 questions, 20-minute segment. We're done.
2 questions, Kevin. We got to fly out of here. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for Katie stopping by, and as well as Cam. Those Bauer Pro returns, check them out on YouTube. The director's cut is there, and send us your comments. Who you pick for your pro return gear. If you could take anybody's set, you'd like to use it. So keep in mind you like to use it. But you can also go get a little nostalgic as well. Modern, last generations, or go really old school, like Hutch did today. Really appreciate it. You guys have a great week. Woody, stay safe out there. I worry about you sometimes, pal.
I'll be okay. I'll wear a helmet.
Okay, good. Or a mask, whatever. It floats your boat. Thanks to you, the audience, as well, for joining us on In Goal Radio, the podcast.